everyone. This is Jocelyn at Detectify. We're going to get started soon. This is the first event that we will have for the year, virtual event. And my name is Jocelyn and I'm the moderator for today. And this is a presentation about Detectify's journey and in getting ISO 27001 certified and as a SaaS company. And it will last for about 40 minutes. We will have a Q&A session followed by a product demo based on some requests in the registration given to us by Gianna. And if you're learning about Detectify for the first time through this webinar, let me just give you a quick intro. We are a cloud-based web application security solution that streamlines vulnerability findings to application owners and engineers. And so we collaborate with expert ethical hackers to source the latest vulnerability research, and we deliver reliable payload-based testing to our customers. So with Detectify, we can bring security up to speed and scale with development. So if you're interested in seeing what we have, stick around after the Q&A and we'll jump into it. But first, let me introduce you to our speakers for today. We have Jenny Gabrielsson. She is the CFO at Detectify. Before joining Detectify, she was having lots of experience from the banking industry. And when she joined us 2 years ago, she really helped us, grow up as a company and get, our things in order. And she's been really instrumental in helping us with this ISO certification process, part of the ISMS team. And she will go into how the business side of things, like telling you why we started with this ISO certification and kind of the business benefits along the way. And then we will then hear a talk from Johan Edholm, our co-founder and security engineer at Detectify, and he's the one that's really working behind the scenes to help us implement this, the technical implementation, and reminding everyone else to stay secure and keep up security practices along the way. But without further ado, I will hand it over to Jenny.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Great to have you all here, and super fun to get to talk a bit about our ISO journey. So I'm gonna start by, let me see here. Yes, I'm gonna start by summarizing what we're gonna present to you now, and the first part of why we chose to get an ISO 27001 certification, and how did we start the process. What positive outcomes did we see from the certification, and making ISO 27001 to fit for a SaaS organization, and the challenges with that. Going to give some tips and tricks and recommendations how you can do it. And like Jocelyn said, we're going to have a Q&A after that, and the demo at the end. So to answer why we got certified, there are a number of different reasons, but it was mainly driven from our customers. We had some customers asking for the ISO certification, and we also thought about that this would strengthen our trust on the market, both with our customers and other business partners, as well as giving a value to ourselves in improved protection of our information assets. And if you have control over your information assets, then you also reduce the risks of cyber attacks and eventual financial losses related to that. We are, as Jocelyn shortly mentioned, a company that is already within the in cyber information security area. So this obviously felt like taking our operations to a level aligned with that. And this the SaaS company is or all SaaS companies are a pretty immature industry, so having the ISO certification is also something that gives us a competitive advantage today. So if you're thinking about getting the ISO certification, what should you start with and how should you do it? The first part is to obviously make the decision. We started talking about it, I think, about 1 year before we actually got the certification, or perhaps a little before that, like those vague talks, you know. But then you get to the point where you really make the decision, and if you make the decision and you're serious about it, you need to anchor that decision all the way from your board to have their full commitment to it, and all the way down to management to take the operational responsibility and have the mandate for driving this within the organization, and ensure the commitment go all the way down to the organization, because everyone will need to be involved in the ISO work. So it's something you do together as an organization, and it's important that you make all the employees understanding why are you doing this and what does it mean. So that's the solid foundation you need to have in place before you start hands-on working with getting your ISO in place. So that's obviously means it's not a one-man show. It's not something that one or a few persons can do. You need to have the information security on your organization's top agenda, and it will take time. It's not rocket science. It's not difficult in that way, but it's time consuming. And yes, SaaS companies tend to have tons of things to do. So this is obviously something on top of the ordinary daily business, but it's the value of doing it should hopefully bring something to your operational daily work as well. And getting the foundation of the ISO in place is something that is very time consuming, and then it's more about keeping it up to date going forward. So it's worth that investment of time that you need to spend on getting the ISO in place. So what we did when we started was to we put together our own ISMS team, and ISMS is the information security management system, which is the essential part of following the ISO standard and getting your information security system in place. And that was crucial. We brought together a bunch of people from different parts in the organization, which was also valuable because then we kind of automatically got a thorough understanding out in the different parts of the organization, and we had a very engaged group that could have this on their top of mind in different settings all over, in all parts of the organization in the daily work. We also brought in an expert, or we used some third parties, which helped us both with getting all the formalities in place and like guiding us within the ISO standard, helping us also finding out about the scope we wanted to have what to include in the organization, all parts, or the risk appetite the organization felt was a good level, because handling your risks are an essential part of the ISO standard. So it's up to every company to decide their scope and level of risk they want to take. And then, since this involves everyone, the education part is also key to success. So we implemented a security training tool, which we have now also switched out to another one. But it's a very good way to educate and communicate to the organization what information security is about and how you deal with that within the organization. So today we use a tool that is called Learnifier, and it's very good because it's possible to customize it so it fits with the learning you need to have in the organization. So it's something that helps all employees get the understanding and making sure they know how to follow our ISMS. And we also appointed something called, or something we chose to call security champions. It's some people throughout the organization that are more educated on the topic than others, and that are having the security champions hat alongside their ordinary hat of work, what they do, so they can help and guide colleagues during other type of works and help spreading the word about how we work with information security and what we need to do. So it's been both appreciated for from the people that are security champions, but also from the whole organization to the auditor that was also very impressed with this type of raising the awareness within the organization. The PDCA is something that tells you if you get that in place, you have your plan, what you need to do, you make sure it gets done, you shake it up by making different internal control or other type of internal audits to make sure it works the way it's supposed to do. And if it doesn't, then you need to act upon it. So then you implement the right ways of working or the right controls to make sure you're aligned with your ISMS. And when you build your ISMS, it's also very good to try to think in a flexible way, because SaaS companies are about development and growth. So if you're too rigid in setting up your information security management system, it will be more difficult for that to follow along with your business as it evolves. So trying to find agile ways of implementing your ISMS is going to help you along the way when the company changes over time. So in the end, we received the ISO certification, and then you wonder if we were ready. But no, you're never ready with information security. It's something that you need to constantly work with. You need to improve the ways of working so it's aligned with your company, as I just said, and that you make sure they go hand in hand, the ISMS, with the company businesses and operations. So continuity is needed, but getting the ISO certification is still like a very heavy milestone that you check. So you have the solid foundation of your ISO in place, and it's just about tweaking, refining, and developing the ISMS and the work done within the organization going forward. So it's not as time consuming as getting it in place, but you still need to spread the awareness. You still need to collect your evidences, which is what your ISMS says you're going to do. You're going to have to prove that for the auditor. So collecting evidences along the way on a frequent basis is needed for you to show that you're actually doing the work that you are saying that you are doing. And then I think the PDCA is, because you need to see it on a yearly cycle. So you need to know what to do, when to do it, and make sure it gets done, and also then adjusted if necessary. So it's a journey, I can say, but you at least start off good by having the foundations in place. So then the question is, was it worth this time and work effort that we put into getting the ISO certification? We definitely believe it was. We did get some new customers after we received the ISO certification, and we also, it was a good challenge for the organization to go through our structures and then the internal work processes we have, and making both a lot of improvements, of course, but we also I mean, in a fast-growing company, you don't always have time for this, so you kind of look back on things you're doing and thinking about, okay, we've done it like this, how do we do it now, and how do we make it sustainable in an information security way? So you get to evaluate what you are doing in your daily work. And it also improved the awareness of information security and how to treat that throughout the organization, giving us better control of our information assets, and also, of course, then helping reduce the risk of information getting lost or getting in the wrong hands, which is a positive thing for the business, of course, to have better risk mitigation and controls in place. And we did implement some new tools that are also supporting us in the information security work field. So that's also been very valuable. And a lot of people think it's very fun to work with it as well. So I will also put that in as a gain in the process. I will leave it over to Johan to talk a bit more about the other side of the information security work.
There we go. Managed to unmute myself as well. So, all right, I'm going to talk about like how we did this more in a more hands-on way, I guess. But first off, some disclaimers. I'm not an auditor or anything like that. I'm a nerd, so I'm going to take this from more of a nerd perspective. And I was absolutely new to this whole compliance concept. I'm not used to reading a lot of the standards and legal texts and stuff like that. That's not my thing, but so this is going to be my take on it. Another thing to keep in mind is it's very possible to become compliant without actually improving your security. Hopefully that won't happen, but that's a bit up to you. As Jenny mentioned, you define your scope, like what do we actually want to include in this certification, and you also specify your risk, and you can basically say like, oh, well, we only want to certify this closet and we accept any risk. I don't think the auditor would really buy that, but in theory you could do that. Another thing to watch out for is to like don't just check boxes, like don't study for the test, like actually learn something from this. Take this opportunity to improve your security. This standard covers a lot of areas, from everything to on and offboarding to how you review audit logs and stuff like that. So this will give you a good opportunity to look into all different kinds of fields. Even if you think you're kind of already doing a good job in security, there are definitely some parts you have missed that the standard will include. Some of them might not be very relevant for you, but a lot of them will. So you can also take this opportunity to get budgets for your security work that a nerd like me want to do. Another observation I had was like, if you read a bit between the lines of this, you see that it's a bit old maybe, or it's based around an old environment, or it could be the other way around, that Windows domain with group policies, they look the way they do to be compatible with this, but it almost sometimes feel like the standard is made to fit into that kind of environment. But now when we're in the cloud and you're diverse in your operating systems, you have a lot of Macs, and we have Linux machines as well, and some Windows, all that. It's a bit different, and you're gonna have to tweak some things. Another thing is that the auditor you'll talk to probably won't be a nerd. Will probably know a lot about information security and understand some like nerd concepts, but they're not gonna go in and do like a code review of your stuff. Probably they're gonna look at your documentation and your processes around it, and As Jenny mentioned, like look at the evidence that you have collected throughout the years or throughout this whole certification process. They will also look at your inventories because they want you to keep track of all your computers and servers and informational assets as well, like databases and S3 buckets and whatnot. So how this works, like how at least, yeah, how I look at it. ISO consists of a lot of controls, I think more than 100. And it could look something like this. Controls against malware. Detection, prevention, and recovery controls to protect against malware shall be implemented, combined with appropriate user awareness. And as you see, it's kind of vague, the whole thing. It doesn't actually say you should install like an antivirus, for example. You could have file integrity monitoring, for example, and look at the network traffic to see if something is infected and then restore from a backup instead of having an antivirus. That would have loved this, but it should solve that problem. Anyway, you take those controls and you write some policies around them. It could look something like this. Maybe you have an acceptable use policy, and in that you say, make sure you have anti-malware software installed and kept up to date on devices where applicable. And some other policies saying like, oh, training will include on how to use security software. Still kind of vague, but like this is more tailor-made to your organization. And then you have processes, which is more like team-specific documentation that you would have, how your team work, like how to install this malware, or maybe you have automation so it automatically gets installed and stuff like that. And then an auditor will look at your processes and see if they follow our policies, and they will see if our policies cover the ISO controls. So you need to have this whole chain. And this is how we did it. We started off with a Google Sheet and just listed all controls they had and made another column called existing controls. So like, what do we do today? I have removed all the info. We actually do stuff here. But like, what do we do today that might cover this control? And then we and our consultant, who's like more an expert in this kind of information security compliance work, looked at these two and like, oh yeah, you should probably do these kind of things. And then made an action plan for that, assigned it to someone, and then we provided links or similar to evidence for that, for fulfilling these kind of things. Super handy way to work, because then you have some kind of certainty of like what you actually do cover, or at least what you claim to cover in the way you work. But more to tools or how to start with this when. So start simple. That's my suggestion. Use Google Sheet for inventories if you can. Maybe sometimes it's even easier to just use Amazon instantly if you have tagged it correctly, but there are some specific fields that you might not have already, like business criticality or something like that. And use Google Forms. We use it to report like incidents or weaknesses that people find, or opportunities if they see like, oh, we can use this thing maybe, or change this thing for the better. Send it into a Google form. Quick, you don't need to evaluate like advanced tools to do it, but then as you get working with this more and more, you'll notice that maybe some inventories are painful to keep track of in a Google Sheet. So use tagging in Amazon, for example. Maybe you get tired of having things in a Google Sheet for all the incident reports as well. Move over to Jira. That's what we did. That helps a lot. But like, start simple and iterate. See where you need help. But then there are going to be a lot of tools that you might want to look into and stuff. I'm not going to cover all of them. I'm just going to try to mention 3 or mainly 2 of them that I found very helpful. But first of all, infrastructure as code is absolutely fantastic in when it comes to like this kind of compliances, because a lot of it is about change management, like, oh, how do you like deploy things to production, and how do you approve changes and stuff like that. If you have like code reviews and the code reviews in your infrastructure as code as well, you get a lot of things for free. You might want to add like a checklist to have in your pull requests or merge requests, depending on which platform you use, or similar things to like go for a standardized checklist, because then you can also use that as evidence to the auditor that like, oh, we actually do this, and here we can see the responsible person, and you can see that one person wanted to do the change and someone else approved it, and all that, yes. And then we introduced a new tool called Collide, which I personally absolutely love. It's a paid service though, but it's worth it. That is something you install on your computer, and it will help you, or help, I guess, me in this case, see an overview of all client computers. It works on Linux, Mac, and Windows. It's great for asset inventory and for compliance. I'm going to talk a bit more about that in a while. And then Falco, which is really nice as well. It's like an IDS, which can act as an antivirus on containers or on Kubernetes. Because like you're probably not going to install like Norton antivirus in a Docker container, right? So you need to find some other solution. I will not talk about Detectify. That feels a bit dishonest in a way, but we were also going to have a demo separate from this this thing. But yeah, let's see. There we go. So this is a viewing Collide. So Collide is a thing you install on your computer, as I mentioned, and what it will do is that it will build like a full index of what's installed on your computer, like all applications and different settings in the operating system and in applications, and can also look for suspicious files if you want to do that, and it will allow this to be queried as with SQL syntax. It's based on OS Query, like the Facebook project. Collide has kind of packaged this as a SaaS service, and here you can see some things that you can query. Very handy if, like in this case, like list machines that are affected by this CVE, because you can kind of figure out what would signify if you're vulnerable for a certain thing. Can also look for bad Chrome extensions, for example, or in our case, we have some files that are sensitive, and we can see like, oh, if you have this on your computer for more than 2 weeks, you have probably forgotten it, or maybe you should at least be aware that it's there, so you can remove it. For example, it could be like, a CSV that is exported or something like that. You might not want to sit and type those queries all day long, so Collide provides like a pre-made checks for a bunch of things. You can see like, disk encryption is not enabled. As you can see, this is for Mac and Windows. I guess Linux is further down in this list, but it looks in all operating systems, so it works absolutely great. Even if you have like a more modern setup. Not sure if that's fair to say, but like if you don't use like group policies, if you have multiple operating systems, which I think a lot of modern SaaS companies do. So you can automate this, you can create new checks, or I think you ask them to do it. They do it without any fee, because they're much better than you at writing it, so it's quite nice to use that. And as you see here, it says like, a notified device owner. This is a very handy feature. So that means not only do I not have to run around like screaming at people, or I probably wouldn't scream at them anyway, but like tell people, but Collide will do that for me. It will ping people on Slack because this integrates with Slack. It also integrates with like email if you don't use Slack, but I think a lot of modern companies do use Slack. So it will ping them and say like, oh, disk encryption is not enabled, and it will give them a link where like how they can resolve it themselves, and if they can't figure it out even with these instructions, they can choose to escalate it to, well, in this case, me or like someone else in a separate Slack channel that are responsible for these kind of things. And this will give people a more, not constant reminder, but like a reminder if they do it wrong. So it almost works as a awareness training as well, I'd say, even though it's not enough by its own, of course, but it's very handy. And if they just choose to ignore it, it will get escalated to us as well, or to me and other people in a separate Slack channel. You can of course choose, like if it's something very critical, it can be escalated automatically instantly. But that's incredibly handy in this more modern and diverse way of working. And the same is almost true for Falco. Like when you work in a more modern way, you probably use like containers and serverless and cloud and all those cool things. And then you don't have the classic antivirus, and you might need like an IDS or things like that as well. And Falco kind of covers both of these. So Falco is a project donated to the Cloud Native Foundation. It's open source on GitHub by that, and what it does, it looks at like syscalls and kernel events and like things going on the computer, on the Linux machine, and it will combine this event data with metadata from Kubernetes or containers. So you run this on your cluster, you run it as a daemon set, so it runs on each machine. You can run it on just an ordinary EC2 as well, of course, if you, or like a normal server, if you want to do that. And this will cover a lot of the things you need to cover, basically, when it comes to like auditing, when it comes to like antivirus on everything in IDS. It can also do like auto remediation if you want to configure it to that. So like, oh, here's an infected pod. Automatically configure the network policies so it can't communicate with anything. So if you want to do forensics, or it can like kill off the pod and it will start up again if it's something weird going on. And they packaged this with about, I can't remember, 140 rules or something like that, that come by default. And these are kind of generic rules. So they cover a lot of things. And you can, of course, write your own or modify the existing. So it's all open source, and there are 2 different rule sets. This one doesn't have any fancy interface like Collide does, or maybe there are some third parties you can use for it. Maybe Sysdig offers it, for example, but we don't use that. We have it ourselves, and this is how basically look. You have the rules in YAML, and you can connect it to. Well, in our case, we use Slack, but you can send it to basically any source. You can choose like a binary that should run, where you kind of pipe the output of this command. You can pipe it to Netcat if you want, or to like syslog, or like Splunk or whatnot. Email is probably not too uncommon either. So here's an example, like, oh, someone started a shell in a container. That's probably suspicious, or in some cases. So when you do like kubectl exec blah blah blah, then it might alert, because that's very suspicious if it happens in production, or maybe it's not that suspicious during work hours or something if that's the way you work, but if it happens in production, you should probably want to look into it, at least see what's up. And it will tell you, like, it's not beautiful as I mentioned, but it says like, oh, it's this image and this namespace and this is the container and stuff like that, and you can correlate it with Kubernetes audit logs as well, probably, if you want to find exact user. And this other example is someone starts a package manager, like what is it in this case, apt, or someone even installs nmap. Highly suspicious, like containers are made to be immutable. This looks really weird. And these are the classical antivirus things, maybe classical IDS things, but it can also do like check, oh, this one is communicating with a known malware IP, for example, or I don't know, this has written things under like etc, which is unexpected as well. So you have file integrity monitoring in that sense as well. So it can do a lot of powerful stuff. And it's kind of easy to write these rules and make exceptions, because sometimes, like, maybe it's okay to run a package manager in some container because it has some kind of business need for it, and can easily make an exclusion as well. So it might make a lot of noise at the beginning, but it's fairly easy to fine-tune it. So short recap of all that jazz and jargon. Make sure to have evidence that you follow your policies, and make sure your policies cover the controls. If you do that, then you will get certified, hopefully. And start simple. Use simple tools. Don't try to do anything too revolutionary. Like evaluating tools takes a lot of time. Just make sure to get it in place first and then iterate. Most of you are probably kind of familiar with that if you work with SaaS things, but yeah. And don't try to use old solutions in new environments. Don't try to run like I don't know, an antivirus on your Kubernetes host. I don't imagine that going well. Same thing, like you can do like group policies for your Windows machines and then some other solution to the Mac probably, but it's gonna be messy, and use something modern that's made to solve modern problems. Those are my pro tips. And then I guess we open up for questions.
Great. Yes, thank you, Jenny and Johan. We do have several questions coming in, so maybe I can just read it off, and then either one of you can take it. So first one is, I'm curious to see if you considered other certifications other than 27001. For example, SOC 2. So why did you choose this over SOC 2?
Yes, I can answer that one. Yes, we did consider which certification to go for, and the SOC 2 is mainly within the US, but also the ISO 27 is very well established and common and approved in the US to use, and internationally ISO 27 goes very well. So it felt broader for our customer base, which is a global customer base. They don't differ that much either, so that's why US also find ISO 27 reliable.
I hope that helped answer the question there. Another one is, always fun to talk about money. How much did ISO 27001 cost to implement? I don't know if we want to give some answers there.
Yeah, obviously it depends on how you choose to measure it. You put a lot of internal resources into it. Those are always a bit more difficult to evaluate, but I would say like external costs for us, since we were using consultants as well, and the audit the actual audit, we paid about 200,000 to 300,000 euros. But then I think the heaviest cost is actually all the work we did inside the organizations, and so many spent so much time on the project.
And I guess we have one kind of related then. How do you determine an ROI after going through this process?
Yes, I mean, we see it as a long-term value. It's something that builds trust in the market, and we do have customers, and we also believe we will have more customers in the future asking for the ISO certification. So it felt like a strategic decision for us.
Great. Here's another question here. How big was the ISMS team, and how long did it take to get the certification?
I guess I can take that. In the ISMS group that worked with it actively, we were 3 people, mostly, and then we had a consultant helping us. So I guess he was part of the team in a way as well. And we had one optional person, our CEO, that joined a few times, but it was mostly 3 people, like myself, one person like from legal, our CIO, and the consultant. And I guess it's like, what was the other question? Like how long it took?
Yes.
Almost a year, I think. Yeah, almost a year, like 10 months maybe.
Great. And we have one that's kind of related. So if you had a guess of like how many estimated, I guess, staffing hours it takes to implement, and well, we brought in an expert, so we did bring in an ISO consultant, and there's also a question on how do you kind of find one, like the one that fits you.
Yes, we haven't done like any tracking of the number of internal hours spent, but given that it took in total around 10 months, like Johan said, but the last 4 to 6 months were the really intense period where there were several resources that put in between like 20 to 80% of their time into the ISO work. So I can't give you a clearer answer than that. And then finding an ISO consultant, we used our network to get recommendations, since there are a lot of people more or less serious about it, and we also wanted someone that was very tech savvy, since we are a very technical company. So we went for a profile that combined the compliance part with the tech knowledge part. Yes, so that's how we did it. But it felt important for us to find someone that was very serious about ISO 27. And it was also something that helped us in the audit itself, when the auditor also got to have the counterpart in both us and our consultant being part of the audit process. So yeah, find something that fits your company and make sure you're serious about it. If you are yourself, you need to have a consultant that is on the same page as you.
Great. And I think we will only have time, I think, for one more question, just being mindful of our speakers' time. So let's go with this one. What is always fun to reflect on it? Like, what was the most painful or maybe challenging part of this process? Was it, you know, like documentation, finding the right tools, or the right people to involve?
Well, for me, it was probably writing down what we do and understanding like those vague controls and like what does this actually mean? Or like, as I said, I'm not used to reading legal texts and stuff. And the example I had was kind of clear, but not all of them are. And English is not my first language either. So like translating that to like the practical parts, I think that was the most frustrating part for me. Like, what the fuck does this even mean? Like, yeah. And the whole thing with that it felt old. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, much focus also on encrypting stuff, and like, oh, it should be encrypted at rest. And like, I just kind of feel like the whole thing is snake oil when it comes to the cloud. Like, you encrypt a disk at Amazon, who do you protect it from? Like, is someone really gonna break into Amazon and steal that hard drive? Probably not. If someone works at Amazon, you're probably screwed either way. So it's like, yeah.
Great. I think that's all we have time for Q&A. I don't know if either you want or Jenny, you want to stick around and we can type some answers there, but I'm going to now turn it over to Gianna, and she's going to, as some of you requested, have a look at what is Detectify and kind of connect it, make it relevant for some of you who are looking for a tool to help out with ISO, your ISO process. But thank you, Jenny and Johan, for your presentations, and everyone there's so many questions here, so let's try to get some answered. And if we don't answer there, then we will send out this presentation and also follow up with, maybe we can answer some questions in those emails as well.
Yeah, I'll try to answer some stuff in the chat. I'll stick around at least.
Great. Go ahead, Gianna.
Great, thanks, Jocelyn. Hi, everybody. My name is Gianna. I'm an account executive here at Detectify. I'm going to share my screen to take you into the Detectify platform and talk a little bit about it. So first and foremost, it is important to understand really the minds behind Detectify. So we're powered by a one-of-a-kind platform called Detectify Crowdsource, which enables our network of about 250 and growing ethical hackers. It's an invite-only platform, and they discover and submit vulnerabilities to us to earn money. The submissions require the exploitable payload, and after they are assessed by our security researchers, those modules are then built into our Detectify scanner and rolled out to our customer base. So we're continuously automating and scaling crowdsourced knowledge from freelance hackers that go, far beyond compliance, such as common CV libraries and OWASP top 10. But in this webinar, Johan talked a lot about alerts and automating that workflow. And in life, and especially in security, time is our most valuable form of currency. So the idea behind Detectify is that we can help you protect your business faster by discovering and delivering vulnerabilities faster. Whether it be 0 days from our crowdsource team, new ways to exploit existing vulnerabilities, what have you. As a customer, you can expect us to be first in line to report the latest vulnerabilities out there, verify whether they could affect your business specifically, and then alert you in real time. So this is the Detectify dashboard. I'm actually going to start in assets. And this is because we're really focused on giving our customers a holistic view of domain security. So we're looking at apex domains all the way down to small subdomains and really helping companies define their attack surface. So when you drop in a root asset into the tool, we'll immediately begin enumeration and scrub DNS public records to auto discover all of the subdomains that fall under it. And this is our asset inventory. From there, not only are we running those traditional deep scan vulnerability tests on specific endpoints of your application with a crowdsourced twist, of course, but a pretty unique piece to Detectify is that we also have a tool that continuously monitors for potential subdomain takeovers and systemic misconfigurations across your entire attack surface with asset monitoring. So this is a 24-hour stateless scan that is constantly running on your apex domain. So in summary, Detectify is able to show you, here's everything that you own, and here's everything we can tell you about what you own and where you could potentially be vulnerable within the application. And for the sake of this quick show and tell, I'm going to go over to the results tab. And this shows really a top level view of how you're trending, all of the latest scans that you've run, and a very quick view into how many findings you have and what those scan results look like from both the deep scan and asset monitoring down below. Likewise, in the vulnerabilities tab, you can see all vulnerabilities from both tools in real time unless they've been patched. Essentially, this is just another way to digest the information and also filter by many custom tags to be able to organize for you and your team, whatever works for you. This is the beautiful part of automation, where we can show you where you're vulnerable as soon as it's detected, while getting that information to you in a very concise but also very quick way. As far as pushing out this information to team members, I know we talked about Calliope and Slack. So we have many integrations. So there are right now specific to each scan profile, and you can find them in the integrations tab per scan profile. We work with Slack, Jira, Trello, Splunk, and a lot more that are specific to the profile, but there are more improved integrations that we've worked on specifically with Slack and Jira that we've rolled out so far that get a little more granular, and we're looking at the deep scan and asset monitoring with those. But we also have an API where you can have access to all of the data points and features you need to automate building scans, kicking off scans, deploying them, consuming the subsequent results and findings from them as well. And there are a lot of other ways to, of course, view all of this information about your landscape: OOPS view, all test view. You can export results and specific technology pieces within the tool, such as fingerprinting, the technologies and frameworks that your applications are built on, the crawling phase of the application of the scanning, scanning behind authentication, etc. So we would love to talk to you about those and walk you through a deeper demonstration. But if you go to detectify.com, our website, a chatbot will pop up and you can request a full demo that way. Or if you'd like to start a free trial, we do offer 14-day trial periods, and you can easily create an account straight from there and verify some assets and start kicking off scans yourself. So I hope I got the right amount of valuable information across to entice you to check us out a little bit further. But for now, thank you for joining, and I hope to talk with you soon.
Great, thanks so much, Gianna. And wow, we have so many questions here. Like I mentioned, if we don't get around to answering it here, we will do our best to wrap up with an email send out to all the participants with the recording. And I think all of us here are also available on like LinkedIn. So please go ahead and connect with us or send questions and to us to Detectify as well. You can reach out to us there at info@detectify.com. I'm losing my words here now. So we are almost 10 minutes over. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. We will be having more of these live streams throughout the year. So please follow us on social media, or check out our tool, as Gianna said. All right, bye everyone. Have a nice day or evening.